about to share, you can just tune me out for a moment. But in your Google Meeting, in your Google Meeting at the bottom, if I'm sharing some content, it would be helpful if you kept your. But this is a staff meeting. I don't want you to think it's rigid like those more scheduled PDs that are district-wide. If you need to unmute and ask me a question, this is your staff meeting. Conduct yourself how you would behave in your staff meetings. So whatever is your understood group norms in your staff meetings, go ahead and do that in here. If you don't want to appear in the video, though, some people just don't want that later. I will say that I'll leave it up to Mr. Zoller, whether it is a public link on my YouTube channel or just an unlisted that I share directly to you. That's up to him. But if you don't want to appear, you can just mute your camera at the bottom, and then we can see that you're in the meeting, but we won't be able to see your face. So that's just a personal preference. Some other supports that you may need when you're in these meetings is closed captioning, which is actually right there. If you have that turned on, it's a great support to always point out whenever you're launching a Google Meet. But you also can kind of chuckle at how inarticulate I can be at times. That'll make you laugh. I will not be keeping it on. All right. For the most of this time, you probably don't need to change layout, but if you do, and you're on tiled, when a presenter is sharing their screen, it's best to stay on that spotlight or the larger version so that when I share my screen, you can see well. And I've gotten a lot of feedback from people before that it is helpful to go to full screen mode so that you can see a little better when I am showing some examples. So just a little bit of support. But you guys, it's a staff meeting. If you can't see, just say, hey, Rosemary, back up. Show that again, zoom in, whatever you guys need. So with that being said and understood, I am going to get ready to start recording. But is there anything, my agenda is to share district-wide initiatives, some sort of baseline training supports on Schoology, but then dive right into what this looks like for a primary student and especially for a primary student family at home. So that's our focus. And James and I very intentionally named this training. It's not Schoology training. This training is about connecting all families. So that makes sense? All right, I'm going to go ahead and record. Oh, I already did record. Sorry, I forgot I already announced that. All right, so we are recording, and now I don't have to go to the agenda. All right, some of you may have seen the email from our Deputy Superintendent, Tiana Yamat, and she shared with us that we are releasing or have released our CPS program. And so you all might think that I actually, but sometimes I really hate it. Okay, I don't need myself in this grid. All right, and so that is the Cincinnati Public Schools Distinguished Educator Program. That was released via email, and it has since been, all of the materials found in the email have now been added in a folder to the curriculum and instruction website. But that sort of walks you through some of those baseline indicators of things that you should be able to do in order to connect with our students and families at home, whether we are in a face-to-face world. We want to have more blended learning instruction as part of what we do. So even if we return completely face-to-face, just having some blended learning options so that if another situation like this comes up again, it's more of a routine that we've already started to practice. But we could also be returning in a partially face-to-face. And so we're looking at the possibility that students might be returning part-time, or students might be returning based on their grade level. So there's a lot of options that are being discussed at the district level with senior leadership, as well as parents, teachers, principals, and community partners talking about our reopening plan. So option B is that there's some sort of part-time, meaning your students are with you part of the time, but part of the time they're learning at home like we are now. Then the other option is this one that we're in, the fully remote. Should we have it at a high enough level where we have to go back to fully remote, we want to transition from us having to react to this problem to being proactive and prepared to teach in this environment. So that's the purpose of the CPS Distinguished Educator Program. We also wanted to give recognition and a little bit of pride in, if I can do all of these things, that really does distinguish me as an educator, because I can meet my students and their parents in a place wherever they are, face-to-face in my classroom, part-time at home, or fully remote. And so that is quite a statement in itself. So we're developing these levels of distinguished educator, and the first one is released now. Some people are already submitting their badges, their evidence for their badges. It's going really well. So I do want to show you that today. But then as a part of that, we have the Schoology and Google Basics training that is going on from my team. Now I'm going to share those links with you, but we're going to look at everything from the lens of a preschool through third grade teacher, primary teacher, so that it translates a little bit better for you. And not that you shouldn't expect, you should definitely participate in any of the district trainings offered because it all can apply and be transferred, right? But I do know from being a former primary teacher that almost every tech training I ever went to prior to this role, I always felt like, yeah, but you're not talking about what this looks like for a first grader, you know? And so I felt more disengaged with the content. All right, so that's what we're gonna do is start off by just going to Schoology. And I'm just gonna give you my, it's like beating a dead horse. I've said it so many times if you've listened to even one of my trainings. I do recommend that all staff, that includes paraprofessionals, leadership, food service, all CPS staff members conduct their work using the Chrome browser. That you sign in and that sync is turned on. Because when you sign in and sync is turned on, then you've opened up the power of extensions as well as getting instant or more instant access to applications that authenticate with Google. And Schoology is one of those. So if you are signed in and sync is on, you can actually launch Clever right from that shortcut at the top. It's an extension. And that'll take you right into the Clever portal. If you've favorited it already, which if you haven't by now, I would, you can launch Schoology. Now, I can already assume that some of you are like, why is she talking about all of this when we're supposed to be talking about connecting to families? What I'm giving you is ways to work more efficiently and effectively, get straight into your content and be connected. So, so that's why we're doing that. All right, so I launched Schoology through the Clever extension. Okay, if we go into our courses, you are all enrolled, or should all be enrolled. And our new hire, we can't get you in there until you have an account. So if you're a new hire, you can reach out to me individually and I can give you copies of some of this stuff. But the Office of Curriculum and Instruction site, following Deputy Superintendent Amat's email, some people were saying they were confused. So Emily Campbell went ahead and added information to the Curriculum and Instruction website to link you right to that Schoology course. But then even in the Schoology course, there is an explanation of the program. So you can click right on it and it'll take you into this CPS Distinguished Educator program. The reason why we're starting with this is it does open up a lot of baseline skills. And so there is, I'm not gonna go, this is designed to be self-paced to meet you where you are. So I'm not going through the whole program. I'm just doing more of a walkthrough, talk-through. So there was a flyer that sort of advertised the program with some links that are interactive. There is a suggested timeline. So if you're feeling overwhelmed and you don't know where to begin, you could always look at this. We would just like you to complete the self-assessment by May 22nd. Then, whether you are attending PDs all this week and next week and achieving it before you leave, or if you need to take more time over the summer, just try to keep in mind that the baseline goal is that all teachers, teaching staff have hit the level 1 distinguished educator goals. They're defined in stage 2 by August 21st. And so we'll look at the next page together. All right, there is a self-assessment. If you haven't taken this yet, just remember that we ask that it's completed by May 22nd. So you don't need to feel like you got to jump in there today, but you most certainly can. We did add some levels of support. Some people, after they took the assessment, said that they didn't have the list of the I can statements, so we pulled that out, and you can download a copy of it as a PDF. One way that I might use this is I might highlight the ones that I need to work on and look for PDs aligned to that. So I take my assessment, and then the ones that I did not mark that I can do, and I will even show you a preview of this if you haven't taken it yet. If there's anything in this assessment that you do not mark that you can do, like maybe you're familiar with it, but you need some help. Or help, I have no idea even what this is talking about. If you have any of these two areas, the goal is that you would attend PDs that would help you be able to hit those goals. And so our PDs are being redesigned around that, even as we speak. All right, so you can take the self-assessment. Let me keep closing out my tabs because meetings run better when you don't have too much open. And then once you've taken the self-assessment and identified your areas, you move on to submitting evidence. Now there is a checkpoint here, and you're checking with yourself. Okay, so this is you are trusted to be the professionals that you are, and you know whether or not you have said I can or learned how to do those things. So many people said from the get-go, I can do everything in that assessment immediately. I don't need any help at all. That's great. Then go ahead and submit some evidence and show that. And you're just being asked to show one thing that would demonstrate that. You're not being asked to show a whole bunch of things. So just one of the areas. Maybe you had a lot of those, like it's familiar, but you realize I need to attend PD or access some self-guided materials. You know, I'll come back to this when I'm ready. So that's up to you. Anytime between now and August 21st, just come back in here and submit your evidence. Or if you know you're not ready yet, in that form, if you indicate help, you're going to get an email from somebody on our team that says, you know, here is a link to all the support. Don't feel overwhelmed like you have to go digging for it. But I will show you that up here at the top of the course, there is a link to the virtual PD schedules going on this week. And don't forget that your curriculum teams, like I heard Mr. Zoller mention math curriculum. You know, attend those math curriculum PDs. And so I think I saw one just down here last night. Yeah, more math PD for grades. Oh, that was 6 to 12. But I know that there's something for the younger grades as well. Each of the curriculum teams are sharing their own PDs this week. Don't forget that the curriculum website, I went ahead and even linked it here too. The website does have all the PD opportunities for the week in this calendar as well. So you should be able to access whatever you need to support you in meeting those objectives. So that is the Distinguished Educator program. There are any number of things you could do. And you might finish that program and be like, that was so easy. I need something better to engage me. Put that in your feedback when you submit your evidence. Say, I need to level up. Like, what's the next stage look like? We're developing that now, but there are lots of opportunities posted on our PD schedules. All right, so that covers some district initiatives. I want to transition now into some Schoology training topics, and I'm going to share with you a PD agenda from one that happened just this morning. I added it to our calendar invite, so let me just pull it up. And I'm going to drop this link in the chat so anybody can view it. Now, this is the general district-wide agenda, but we're going to make sure that we can it. I love wordplay. We're going to make sure we make it fit cans. Okay. All right. So this stage 1 learning, let me go into present mode. And you don't have to worry about the stages per se, but if you are wanting to get this achieved before you leave for the year, this will align it. Now we are looking at how we access Schoology, and you may have noticed in the beginning when I said access through Clever, again, if you sign on and sync with the Chrome browser, you can just get Clever right there in the browser bar. You can launch it. The reason we want to do that is very often people are typing in Schoology.com and they're going to the wrong address. Our apps in Clever all take us to the correct landing pages and login pages for the apps for our district. So that's why we want to use Clever. And plus, there's a lot of other things you can do with Clever. We're going to look at communicating with students through an update, an announcement, and messages to groups and individuals. We're going to look at adding instructional material, creating folders for organization, place materials in the folder, due dates, and so forth, and then Schoology calendar. But I'm not going to do this in this context of this and this and that. What I want to talk about with you guys first, and if you have that copy, is is there anybody in the group who has never done anything in Schoology. And you can either just unmute or yep, I saw, so Amy's brand new to the district, so she's gonna need some more one-on-one level support. Now, is there anybody in the group who everything I just showed you, you already know how to do? And if I were to have you sit through 20 minutes of me showing you how to do that, I am wasting your time. And please feel free to raise your hand or unmute. Yeah, Kelly. All right, anybody else? You can be honest, or only half of that helps me. You know, feel free to unmute if you don't want to unmute your camera, just unmute your microphone. But let's have an honest discussion. Like, how can this time best benefit everybody in the group? And don't feel too put on the spot because I have an idea. I just don't want to be the first.
So I think I just kind of need a refresher. You taught me everything at Woodford, but I forget some of it. Sorry. You were a great teacher. There's just a lot in here.
Yeah. And plus you've had somebody distracting you for a while, huh?
Yeah, two somebodies.
Right, yeah. So I'm sorry. I'm so sorry that I forgot about your son looking at the baby. I'm like a baby fiend. All right. I froze several times and had to get in again. Oh, okay, sorry. Thankfully, most of the time when I don't freeze on my end, when I go back later, the recording is smooth. So if you're having any trouble, you could always hop in and view the recording later. All right. Well, my guess is that in this group, there are people who have seen nothing on there, like Amy identified. Kelly said, I've got all of this, you know, don't waste my time. And then some of the rest of you are like, I need a refresher. So what I'd like to do is invite Kelly. Could you share something that is a success that works well in Schoology and something that is a frustration or barrier at your level? And if you feel put on the spot, you don't have to do it now, but something that's working well with Schoology in your current role and something that is a problem or a barrier for your staff. I think I'm giving her some think time. I would welcome anybody to unmute their microphone and consider this a conversation.
I've always wanted a single unified platform for the district. The reason I know this, I did my student teaching in Mason and they transferred over to a single unified, and it is awesome to have a single set of credentials for parents, children, teachers. And if you need to know your child's bus number or put money in their account, it's a huge endeavor to do it. But once you're there, everybody's on the same system. I don't think it's the greatest platform in the world, going to be honest. It's a little buggy, need some updates, but I like the thought of everything being warehoused in one place.
Okay. All right. So problems that it's either buggy or
it's not intuitive sometimes. I don't
not think. Intuitive. Okay. You're right.
I think and a little bit more intuitive.
And pardon?
I feel like Google Classroom's a little bit more intuitive than Schoology.
All right. I definitely hear you there, and I'm going to give, I don't know, full disclosure, fair warning. The way that that I'm going to show you some things that I do for primary, for preschool, kindergarten, first, second grade, they're not intuitive. They're workarounds because online learning, for the most part, has been designed for students in grade 6 and up, and they've adapted it down to the lower grades. I do know that there are dedicated professionals looking at ways to better deliver this to to young children, but we still don't have it fully done at the LMS level, learning management system level. Now, what I can reassure you in, I have attended the annual Schoology Next Users Conference every year, and they showed a future state, a dashboard that actually customizes and shifts depending on the age of the student for the way that it is displayed, that it shifts to a more visual picture-based. But when they showed that, I've also learned how to do a lot of that sort of ourselves. And I don't want to say myself, ourselves. We can make something, we can make these templates and we can share them out. And then we can put them in our courses and we can create more visual experiences. We can create links that appear to be one thing, but really connect us to something else. So you're definitely right. It's not a perfect system, but it is the system that we have. And it's the only system that will connect a parent at home to every child they have in the district from preschool up through 12th grade. So it's really essential moving forward for our families at home that we do hub everything in Schoology. We let that be our place for communication, and we let that be our place where we work. Now, I can tell you, I work with a third grade math teacher in another building very often, and I I do work with teachers who just use Schoology, but I work with one in particular who really loves her Google Classroom and doesn't want to make the transition. Well, then we have a template that you can put in your Schoology course, and then you are just providing the information of how they access your Google Classroom and what you're going to do. No one is suggesting that you have to stop using tools that work for you. We are just suggesting that you put it all in one place for ease of access for everybody. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. So I'm gonna get ready to transition into some examples, like I call them a walkthrough, talk through. We're gonna look through some examples from primary grades and different classrooms. But I did have a technical problem right before this meeting started, and I had to shut down all the links I had preloaded. So you have to bear with me while I pull up my history and get those links reopened. Don't you love it when everything closes? It's really great. You can go though in your browser. You know, I should just do this on the screen with you guys. I will show you this. Because you can go in your browser when you have those problems, and you can go into, it'll give you everything that was recently closed. But my problem is it may be closed right before this period. It gives you recently is like loose term. I've seen it list things for up to an hour, but then I've seen it only list things for about a half hour. But right up here, this is not a heading. This is actually a category. And so I know I'm off the Schoology topic, but it always helps you if you can work more efficiently. Everything you've closed recently is right there in your history, everything you've visited. So I'm pulling that up and I'm looking for the ones I was trying to show you guys, which I pulled up this morning. So are there questions while I'm pulling up the tabs I had open to share with you? That's okay if there's not. Oh my. Here we go. All right, we're gonna try a different one because I can't remember the teacher's name, and I had some things pulled up. I do know she was at SCPA, but I can't find her right now. So we're gonna go this way instead. I'm going into my history. The reason I'm starting this way is because there's another teacher that I had pulled up, and I'm actually a member of her course because I want to follow what she's sharing with her families. So, oh my. I'm in such a god-awful amount of courses, so. My history was saying Schoology, but it wasn't on the pages that the history wasn't telling me which page I was on. So that sucks. Oh, here we go. Amy Hawkins. And there's one more. There we go, Juanita Johnson. Okay, let's take a look at Amy Hawkins' course. She does teach a Montessori preschool, kindergarten mixed class. So you can ignore the fact that she has multiple age levels, but this is how she set up her Schoology course to work for families at home. Now she's got a lot of links here, and what you can tell right away down this point is that these links are clearly for her parents or families at home. We don't expect any preschool or kindergarten child to be reading these hyperlinks and clicking them and knowing what to do. So these are parent materials. Down here is a picture-based template that we developed with the preschool team. This is also for families, parent-based materials. Now it can link out to activities that children can do, but we haven't really gotten into like what our students are doing yet. I want to look at her updates with you, and I've gotten her permission to share this in my trainings. She's been adding things like a poll. Keep in mind, if you add a poll, students actually have to be logged in to participate, parents cannot. But then she's adding a whole lot of things like videos that she embeds so they can watch them right from here. I have used all of her course materials on my mobile app. I encourage you whenever you're building something or using something on Schoology to try it out on the mobile app. You'll be really surprised at how greatly a lot of these things work. But then she's even recording her own read alouds, resources, things like that. As a personal little just exciting endorsement of like how she's using her updates to engage her students, the children and their families. She actually was reading, and it goes back quite a bit, so I don't know that I'm going to bother going all the way down, but she did a read aloud pop-up book to her students just on the Schoology update page. And it was a pop-up book of the Hungry Caterpillar. And so the pieces are popping up and you can see it. Well, I was looking at that with my 2-year-old grandson on my lap, and he was 100% into watching it. He actually watched her read the whole story. He was trying to grab the screen and touch the caterpillar. But just by her reading the book to her students and having that movement-based thing, so it was a pop-up book, she immediately had young children engaged. Now, what's the best recommendation for young children interacting with technology? They should always what? Every young child with technology should do what? You can unmute.
Be interacting with an adult right beside them while using it, and no technology under the age of 2, correct? According to the American Academy of Pediatrics and NACI.
So no, yeah, well, so and then
for 3 to 5-year-olds, it's only supposed to be an hour, correct?
Yeah, so the time guidelines have been revised by the American Academy of Pediatrics. Thank you, Sean. The timeline guidelines have been replaced with quality of time guidelines, because they realize that even if you have a limitation, like you only put a child on a screen for an hour, let's say that they're 3 years old, and you only put them on the screen for an hour every day. If you just give the child a tablet and say, this is your screen time for an hour, that is not a good way for them to develop. They need to do it in the context of either peer relationships, which in the classroom, in the traditional setting, we could facilitate by by getting rid of headphones and letting there be a little noise, right? And having them talk about an activity, maybe that they play a game together, or with the guidance of a careful adult, a caring adult, guiding and talking them through the activity. So just like anything we do with early childhood best practices, there needs to be social and emotional development, language development, and those experiences that give them a reason to enhance their language and enhance their social skills by things that either create an emotional reaction, like, wow, this is exciting, did you see that? Or something that creates a dialogue relationship. This is a red truck, this is a green truck, what color is this truck? So those are those guided conversations, but we can capture a lot of that, everybody, through video. So truly, one of my biggest tips to all early childhood educators is that you guys just embrace YouTube or within Schoology video recording, because here's the thing. I know that I hated the sound of my voice when I was in my undergrad and had to record those lessons the first time and submit them to my professors. And I was like, I don't sound like that, and this is just horrible. And I hated it. But you always sound like that to your students. They always see you looking like that. And so right now, while they're at home, they miss you. They miss your face just as much as your heart is missing them. And I'm just telling you from my personal experience of having, and I had my older grandson come over. He was actually still at nap when my younger one was on my lap. I was trying to do some work. But that video, that engagement piece for that child, they get the opportunity to connect with you. There are also things going on in the brain that occur through visuals. So even if it's not a video, if you post a read aloud story, consider finding a YouTube one that kind of shows them the story, or adding visuals. The things that occur in the brain when visuals are put in, or when visuals are there and easily accessible. I've got this great brain research from University of Cincinnati, Professor Sarah Schroeder. She's been working with us on developing a lot of great content. And you could just trust me right now, and I can provide you the research later, that what happens in the brain with a visual, just even if it's a direction to parents, it's really important. So my tips to you are add videos and add visuals. And so I don't want to waste your time with with how-tos, but I'm going to jump into a few how-tos for those people who are in the middle. Maybe like Maggie, where she said, well, I remember being trained on this, but I don't remember exactly how to do that. And so I want to show you some ways that you can engage your families. But before we do that, I'm going to shift into my parent account and show you what this all looks like to a parent. And I'm connected to a kindergarten child. Big thanks to Jackie Roetter, principal of AWL. She basically let me co-parent her daughter. In Schoology, I'm officially listed as one of her parents, but so that I can demonstrate, because my kids are graduated and they're older, and I really needed that younger person. So that you are aware, if you are a CPS, oh, we didn't look at Juanita's. She has a lot of similar ones, but I'm looking at time and I might not have time to get into her examples as well. Juanita's was to show you examples of content that has been added that has student engagement. So the student is logging in and adding to a discussion. And I'll show you kind of how they're guided with a parent to do that. But Juanita's gets into everything I just showed you with Amy's. Are things that just they can click and view and watch, or click and view and do, but there's not a need to sign into their Schoology accounts. They can do all of it through the parent account. So let's go in now. You may or may not be aware, but if you're a CPS staff member who has children in the district, you can connect your parent account right to your staff account so that you can just toggle back and forth between your staff account where you're doing your work and your parent account for your children. So this is now telling me that I'm viewing as Riley Roetter. And I'm just going to really hone in on those words there. I'm viewing as Riley Roetter. As you are designing course content, you need to keep in mind that a parent is only ever viewing as their child. They cannot interact with the materials. They can't answer things when they're viewing as their child. Now, down the road, if your staff decides to have a space where parents can interact, the parent can go into their own account. And so you can see I just toggle, either I'm viewing my child or I'm in as my parent account, and I can join groups that I can participate in. So there are some schools, for example, Woodford is now adding a group for parents to be able to participate. But parents view their child's account. Now, they can view it, and so anything that is a link, they can click on it. So as a parent, we'll look at Riley's, and it says here that Riley submitted an item to, here's a fun song, wash your hands, everybody. Well, I can click on my daughter's name and I would know, like I would just see her profile. You can see, I'm gonna zoom for this one. It just says view user profile, but the parent can also click right on the title of the activity that she submitted, and then the parent gets to see it and then can even click on her own child submission. So of course, Riley was being guided by her mom, Jackie, or her dad, or whoever is her grown-up at home. But she submitted this. Now I'm not going to actually show her submission for recording this, but Jackie has given me permission to use this. So that parent can go in and see what their child has submitted. If that child is in a course, oops, go to Riley's. Okay, here we go, courses. So I'm viewing Riley's courses now. And we've added Riley to one of my demonstration courses. See this view and respond graphic organizer? If the teacher, and this is something Juanita has started doing with her students, the parent can actually view the whole assignment, can even play the embedded videos, and they can see if their own child has put in a response. So Mary is my child. I can see my own child in there, but I can't see anybody else. And that's a really important feature of sort of keeping our correct digital roles. So we looked at this as a parent to talk about what they would do. Now, if I'm a parent and I wanted my child to go ahead and respond, I want Riley to respond to this, there is not an option to respond. That parent would need to guide their child, and that parent would actually need to log out and have their child log in. For this one, though, I'm just going to hop to another one. And I'm going to Schoology. And, oh, you know what? I'm going into my daughter's account. I'm not going to go in as Riley, just because I don't like to make changes in her account. While I'm opening her account, This will be a great time if you want to unmute and ask any questions.
Rosemary,
Yes.
let me ask you a couple questions about posting videos. It sounds like there is a video posting capacity within Schoology itself, as opposed to using YouTube, which I would be pretty widely accessible. There would be advantages of that too. Is there a recommendation that you would make for our staff?
I would recommend that you begin with, sorry, my other screen is locking up. This is super. Hold on one second.
That's how it goes.
Come on. There we go. All right, it's unlocked. I hope. All right, let me pull this in. Okay, yes, and we'll look at that. I can shift over to the creating something. So let me go out of the child and parent account, go into my own account. And let's look back at that agenda because it may feel like I got way off of that, but what we're going to look at is an update and an announcement, and we're going to look at how those can both have videos into them. So I like to layer things together. All right, I'll go into my sample course. Primary teachers, homeroom is a great space to build in because it doesn't connect with the gradebook ever, so you don't have to worry about syncing your gradebook later if you're not planning to do grades in Schoology. So homeroom is a great place to hub everything. Really, it's great for all age levels, but you all have a homeroom in Schoology, so I always show homeroom for that. An update, as well as materials, you can type your message here. Some of you may have seen mine to the district where I've got this video, and the one I showed of Amy reading the book, it's just sitting there as a tile. But that exists right down here. That's a little microphone. When you click that microphone, you can record audio only, but you can do a video. And this is what Amy, I think Amy and Juanita both are doing. A lot of the preschool teachers are doing this. So you get a preview frame. Just as a quick little tip, they recommend about 1 inch of headspace at the top. So they call it the hair check. So you can just look, take your finger and make like an inch sign. Yep, that means I'm in a good part of the frame. And I can start recording. Okay, and now the recording is going. You can see it in the upper right corner. And so if I had a book that I was reading to my students, I just get to see it all in the frame. Now don't worry, it's mirroring the frame while you're recording. So don't let that throw you off. But if it does, here's the good news. You can always hit stop. You messed up, close it out, just start over. Not a big deal. I will encourage you though, just go ahead and be natural. If you say or ah, you probably do that in front of your students anyway. Just be yourself and just get the recordings done. Don't take 15 takes on them. So when you stop the recording in Schoology, you can preview it. So you can play the whole recording. So you can watch the whole thing, and if you decide you don't like it or you want to do, I don't know, something else within it, or you want to link to something else, you can edit at this point. You can like decide, oh, I'm going to get rid of this and start over, or you can just insert it, and then you can throw in another one. So it could be like part 2. All right. So that is adding a recording right to your updates. I'll hit post, and now that post goes out to all my staff, or sorry, that post goes out to all my students and their connected parents. Let's look back at the agenda.
Is there a time limit on recordings?
If there is, I haven't reached it yet, but I would advise that if you're doing an update recording, you want to think of that space and what it is. It's meant to be an update. So you might read a quick story, but I would probably try to keep it around the 5-minute mark. For an update-based recording. If you want to get into long recordings, if you have a long story that takes 20 or 30 minutes to read, I really would recommend that you use a platform like WeVideo, Screencastify, or YouTube. I like YouTube best. It's easy and natural. I also like the Go Live feature in YouTube because I can go live and I can have a live story hour with my students right now that I record, and then I even get an editing field that pops up, so I can add like whatever I need to support it later, and then I can post it to my course later so that anybody who couldn't join me live still gets a chance to watch it. When you record in Schoology, it's static, it's there. So as soon as you hit post, it's it's live, so to speak, but they don't get the chance to interact. Students, when you say it's made for kids, commenting immediately gets turned off. So some of those go live features are turned off when it's made for children, because we want to make sure that nobody posts anything inappropriate that a child might see. So just keep that in mind. You're not necessarily, when you go live, you're not looking for that interaction within that space. You could even have, if you split your tabs, you could even have a space where maybe you are live here recording your YouTube, and over here you have your Schoology discussion board up, or you have a space where you can take questions so that it's in a more secure platform. So that would be one way that you could try to use that.
Rosemary, can you talk a little bit more about just the organization of courses and things? Like, for example, when you were looking at a student, that student is clearly enrolled in, I don't know, 9 different Schoology courses.
Yep.
I heard you speak of using the homeroom, but that the downside of that is it's not connected to the gradebook.
Yes, thanks. Oh, did you have another point besides the course tiles?
Only about 100 of those, but I can tell you can see where I'm going with this. So take the ball.
Okay, I'm gonna make sure I hit the ones you said: the course tiles, the homeroom, and the grades not connected. Yes, and for that one, I'm actually going to go ahead and jump into, this is an older an older elementary teacher. She teaches 4th, 5th, and 6th, but the concept is the same. And I didn't plan to pull her up, so again, bear with me while I switch into that. I think it's always more meaningful if we can get a realistic example when questions are answered.
While you're pulling her up, I guess what I'm thinking is, like, is it better for our teachers to just build out that homeroom course with everything, and then literally parents don't have to go anywhere else other than there? Or would it be wise for us to be pulling things such that we can use the grading capacity, especially for maybe ELA and math?
So what my recommendation is actually a nice happy medium between the two. I would, similar to the way that Janine has done. Now, again, this is another Montessori teacher, so you can ignore the fact that she has 4th, 5th, and 6th. Just think of it like content instead. So imagine that her 4th grade is her math, her 5th grade is her ELA, and her 6th grade is her science, social studies, or whatever. You get the idea. But what you can do is hub everything in homeroom so that I build the habit of going to that one place. But then in the background, what you are doing is linking out to those other courses. So I would really recommend that you begin your Schoology experience for your student or for your families and students at home with just we all sort of meet here in homeroom. And there are just recordings of videos that you maybe made right in Schoology. Maybe there's a link to a PDF story that you guys all share at the beginning of a module or unit. Some basic things that just get them familiar with navigating. But then when you're ready to kind of level up, and that's more the example that I was going to give with Juanita, and I am going to pull hers open for this. So in addition to lots of engaging things in her updates area of her course, like videos that are embedded. Oh, sorry, hers went backwards. So she's got links to all different sorts of things. Her videos are there, but then she did add materials. And then so students can actually participate in, and I'm not going to click on it because I can view her student's name, so I don't want to click on that right now, but students can participate in those. Well, those items, they could be contained in a folder like Janine does. And that folder is actually in the background, taking that student into the appropriate course tied to the gradebook. So when they click on their math folder, those activities will open up the math course. And when they click on that link for that quiz, it's in the math course. But the front end experience for that student is just, I go to homeroom, I click on my green folder for my math. I click on my yellow folder for my science. Yeah, Eden, go ahead.
Can you link, so I'm asking from the perspective of a specialist teacher, could a homeroom teacher link to a Schoology course that they don't own?
Very good question. And so there's this group of people, they call themselves the Schoology Ninjas, and it's all about like hacking the system for it, not hacking in the bad way, hacking it for the way that it wasn't designed yet, but we need it to do X. So what could happen is And this gets into picture-based, which is a really big sort of passion area of mine. But if I look at this example, and I'm going to hop back over here. I want to go back into Amy's. Oh, I think I might have closed her. You know, I'll just go into my sample homeroom because it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be the real thing. Let's look back at that example of a picture-based interaction. And these tiles instead, let's imagine that this mission to move tile is a link to their PE course. Now, all you would have to do is collaborate on a team. And guys, if you start doing this, you'll be the first ones that I know in the district to do this. But that was such a great question. That PE teacher would just need to share the links to each of the sections with that homeroom teacher. And if we build our materials in the resource area instead of right in our course, you guys can all get your hands on each other's materials. And what you could end up doing, we could build out a template that is a picture-based navigation for our students and families that takes them all into their correct place visually. So if I'm the student or parent, I log in and I see that grid, but this is my math course, and it just takes me straight into that math course. Now the teacher is actually not, the link is not going to work for the teacher because the teacher is not a member of that course. So that's why you'd want to build it somewhere in resources. But I would be, if Eden, if you want help making a template that you can share with all the core content teachers across the building so they can have an all-in-one spot for connecting the specials. As a former computer lab teacher, I know the pain of the specials teacher who sees everybody in the building for every course. And the fact that for the most part, when students are remote learning, they're thinking about math and reading, and they're forgetting that we need to enrich our lives through art and music. And those teachers have really great content to offer as well. So that'd be a great way to do that. I'd be happy to work with you on that.
Rosemary, I think that sounds really good. I think one of the pieces of feedback that we got from parents, both through a survey that we did, but also just some anecdotal conversations that I've had with families, is that they would find it really helpful if there was like and whether it's a Word document even, but something like a visual template that you're describing sounds like the best possible situation, where it's real clear for both students and parents to look and say, okay, as we're working down our list, where are we? What do we still need to do? And if the links can be right there and send them off, I think that's great. But what I'm hearing you say is that that's something that we've got to be really intentional about from the very beginning in setting up, so that then that way, as everybody's working here, like both, you know, over the summer, but certainly through next year too, that's already in place. So maybe you and I can work together, and Eden certainly input, and anybody else, we can kind of figure out what that looks like.
Yeah. I'll be joining you guys too. So I just sent you a photo of my my screen that has all the specials on it, and Rosemary had shown me how to do some icons for each of the grades. But again, you know, it's like 4 courses, 3, 5 units. There's a lot of screens there. And as a parent who's navigating these platforms with 3 different kids in 3 different schools, and I look visually at Schoology with my daughter at SCPA, I look at the Google Classroom at Marymount. As a parent perspective, it needs to be much more simple. Even when I look at the Schoology page, you can't, if you get lost with where assignments are and where you've left off on the feed, there's almost no way to find it. So if we can solve that in some way.
I concur with Patty. It is so hard to navigate this platform. And I know that the district is doing a push towards Schoology, but I'm curious what capabilities this program has that like Dojo doesn't. So like, I know we can post videos, but there is a time limit. We can, there's the student portfolio where they can share work. We can post PDFs. So I'm curious, like how this goes beyond it, since it loses a lot, in my opinion, of the user friendliness.
Yeah, well, Sean, you bring up some good points. And as a former Woodford staff member, when I worked on the team, and Maggie and John, you might even remember this, that I was the building Dojo mentor. And I was like, get everybody on Dojo, because it just gets everybody connected. But it wasn't until I transitioned to this role that I understood what these different applications actually are. So one app is not one app. An application is designed for a specific purpose. And Class Dojo was actually designed as a behavior management or positive behavior support management tool. They added in the direct messaging with parents so you can connect around behaviors. Over time, as the product developed, they added in things like the class story so that you could have more of a communication and sort of an all-included space. It is a free program and it is a phenomenal tool, but it's not a learning management system. It does not connect me as a parent to every child I have in the district. It does not connect to our PowerSchool gradebook, which, whether we like it or not, if we're teaching remote on a long-term plan, we do have to design some activities and lessons that students can do for grades that are online. I want to, the early childhood educator in me wants to do everything from a person-to-person checklist where I know that I assess their skills and then I'll input those grades. But that is not the current world we are in. We have to have digital solutions. And so Schoology is not just an application, and it's not just for behavior. It's a learning management system. It ties together to PowerSchool. It connects parents to children across from pre-K to 12, and it connects us to our curriculum tools, many of which are called LTIs, learning technology interoperability, meaning that the deliverer of your content, like Pearson, and I know I'm giving a high school example, but Pearson is in 7 through 12. Well, Pearson has an LTI integration with Schoology where the materials can be directly integrated into the system, communicate with the gradebook. More and more learning-based applications and programs like that are integrating with learning management systems because of that need to have those connected to our gradebook. So if parents can go to one location to communicate with the child's teachers, to get copies of what they're working on, it's so much better than a parent just being connected to PowerSchool and reacting to a grade that already went in the grade book. It engages them from the get-go. One of the I can statements in that self-assessment that you'll take as part of the Distinguished Educator program, it says that I can articulate, I'm loosely wording it here because I don't have it right in front of me, but about that I can communicate learning goals in the learning management system. So we go beyond just here's this activity. Parents, this is what we're learning, and here's how it connects here with this digital activity. I want to let you all know that we are working with the University of Cincinnati and our Office of Curriculum and Instruction to develop model template outlines or model skeletal frames of what a good course structure is, introducing a lesson, parent resources, sort of that I do, we do, you do approach to learning, but translating that to a digital space. And that work is being done to support you. You're not being asked to build all of this from scratch. You're being asked to use the platform to connect. So Sean, I love Dojo, and it's a fabulous platform. And when we get our families connected, it's really great, but it's only great short term. And we have to, from a school building level, and especially a district level, we have to look at the whole education experience from pre-K to 12 and the parent at home with all of their children in mind. So.
Rosemary, let me work disconnect. I'm sorry, I'm getting reviewed.
I'll mute myself while you're talking.
No, I don't know if sorry, it's weirding me out. Okay, so I would encourage everybody who is hearing this call to be thinking about planning now for some digital assessments or digital submission of student work. So now I want to be clear, that wouldn't be every single thing that you do. So let's say that we start the year and we are face-to-face 100%, and you do, I don't know, I'm gonna make a number up, 20 to 40 activities with your students a week. I'm not thinking that you're doing 20 to 40 activities that are all through Schoology. But I would suggest that you pick the 5 maybe most important, and that you build those things now so that they're ready to go for you in the fall. And that if we are face-to-face, that you still do those activities in a blended or digital space, even if you are there right next to that student to support them in doing it. Now, the other 15 to 35 assignments that you would do as normal. Because let's say that we flip this on its head and we're remote like we are now, you're going to need to be able to have those students submitting some sort of work to you. But you're not going to be able to do 20 to 40 things. You're going to have to be prioritizing the 5 things or whatever that are most important. So if you're already putting those into some sort of digital format, then you're ready to go if we're doing it remote. And and this would be so wonderful, if we are face-to-face, then you can teach your kids how to do all that stuff, because let's be honest, there's a decent chance that we're going to be remote at some point. That's my suggestion.
Yeah, and if I could just just echo exactly what he said. Also adding to that, I'm not sure which individual are in it, but I've been invited to join the Future of Schools committee that is with our senior leadership, with principals and teachers throughout the building, with parents, with custodial staff, all these people who are looking at that. And the one thing that we must do is prepare for at least those 3 scenarios. We need to plan in August that we could come back to any one of them, and we need to be prepared that we are equipped to instruct in any one of those situations. So when you approach it from a fully virtual standpoint, that my lesson outline is on there. Like, what are the big learning targets of this module? They're included there so that a parent at home has context when they're teaching their child. A lot of that you can rest assured that the Office of Curriculum and Instruction is not just working on that on your behalf, like mapping out some of that. You guys already have curriculum maps and guides, right? There are shifts being made to make sure that that's explained in a virtual digital sense. Okay, but it's just going to take some time. And the more that you work on, I look at it as this: when I was in the classroom, and Maggie and Sean, don't tell on me, but I use my curriculum maps and guides. That is what I taught. But how I taught it and what I did, and maybe this was a suggested text, but I knew that this one was something that connected to me individually, and I could make. We have that creative license as educators. We trust ourselves as professionals to enhance and interpret our learning objectives stated in those modules. So just my personal opinion, I would get used to using the system so that you get a chance to put more of you into what you're presenting online. Because if all you're doing is pulling in the templates from the district and just using the map in a raw state, then they miss the magic of who you are as their teacher. So my role here is just to support and empower you to be able to do everything you need to do to connect with your students in that way.
Keep in mind, everybody, that the ELA district contributions are likely going to be focused on wit and wisdom and not EL. So I would strongly advise you, especially with EL, to be thinking about that in advance. And here again, I want to put in a plug for something that came up at our last discussion too. Remember, you've got teammates now at every grade level. We've got at least 2 people that are teaching that grade level. So, divide and conquer, share ideas with each other. Rosemary, how would we, it sounds like in resources, if we build things there, then it becomes easy for those things to be ported between courses. Is that true?
It's not only easier to put between courses, but you guys can actually share editing. I do want to also let you know that like the level 1 educator, we recognize we want you to learn how to deliver content in Schoology, but Google is also a fantastic collaborative tool for professional creation. So you can create things in docs, slides and sheets that later maybe for your Schoology course you download as a PDF because it can be clunky for a parent to, do I have permission, do I not? So I've got tips and tricks that you can do to present the information in Schoology in a way that is a little more seamless. But don't forget your collaborative space in Google, using your Google Drive and establishing maybe even you guys could start sketching out like what does it mean to be a CANS teacher in light of this new program. I encourage you all to take the Distinguished Educator survey as soon as you have a little time, definitely by May 22nd, but then maybe come back together as a team and say, okay, in light of these sort of things that they said, we all need to be able to do by August 21st, what can we share in? What can we do together? Or do I see a way that I'm not creating this in isolation as the kindergarten teacher and then first grade is doing something totally different? So I really encourage you to get together as a building staff and team and talk about what the experience for that parent or child looks like when they come into Schoology as a CANS student. So that's where you sort of get to that freedom to customize that. And to that end, I'm available. I generally book 1 to 2 weeks out, but I'm available to do real targeted. We can do work sessions where we're actually doing some of the building of templates together. If you need some samples in advance, you can let me know. I've already jotted down Eden's name and doing like a PE, and I heard Patty speak up, a PE and tech sort of template that we can start plugging into all the homeroom courses just to make it, again, easier. So You guys are not in this alone. I do have another meeting I have to hop into. Would you like me to just leave the meeting and let the recording continue, or would you like me to stop the recording, leave the meeting, and then I'll share the recording with your staff later?
Yeah, you can go ahead and stop recording. I think that's fine. So just so that everybody knows, Rosemary and I already have another meeting set up. I think it's maybe a week or so from now or so.
After Memorial Day.
We're going to chat